Hi, my name is Riley Allen. This is my review of Chapter 7 of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone titled The Sorting Hat. We start off where the last chapter left off, with Hagrid leaving the students in the hands of Professor McGonagall. She tells the students about the houses of Hogwarts and their virtues, basically. Then we meet the ghost, or introduced to the concept of ghost, and we're introduced to two ghosts. The Fat Friar and Nicholas de Mimsy, Nearly Headless Nick. They are house ghosts. Each house, Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, Slytherin, and Ravenclaw, have a house ghost. Fat Friar is a Hufflepuff, and Nearly Headless Nick is Gryffindor's. They're talking about Peeves, the poltergeist, who we also meet in this chapter, but in the tail end of it. He's basically what you'd expect from a poltergeist. He's a menace. He loves tricking people, causing mayhem. He's the comic relief character. Well, we meet the Sorting Hat, and McGonagall leaves the students to basically stew in the worry about how they're going to be sorted. And then when it's introduced as the hat, Harry said, "What, do they expect us to pull a rabbit out of it?" While Fred said the twins said that we'd have to fight a troll. Man. And of course, little foreshadowing, because they're going to later fight a troll, but that's one of the things you don't realize until late on your second reread or something like that. Well, the Sorting Hat sings because, of course it sings. Then McGonagall starts calling people to sort them. The important people, I guess, are Hannah Abbott being sorted, and the important people are Harry, Neville, Ron, Hermione, all being sorted into Gryffindor, Malfoy being sent to Slytherin. Other Gryffindors are Lavender Brown, Seamus Finnegan, Dean Thomas. Those are really the important ones. Harry's sorting was basically the Sorting Hat telling him he could go in anywhere, but Harry's saying, not Slytherin, because basically everyone he's met said, yeah, you don't want to go in Slytherin, to the point where he basically got in his head that the Slytherins are bad people, because his words were, he doesn't know if it's just him or what, but the Slytherin table was looking very mean, or something along those lines. Well, once the students are sorted, we're basically introduced to Dumbledore, and he's just as mad and weird and kooky as you'd expect from him. He basically tells the students that if they don't wish a painful death, that they should avoid the third door corridor or something like that, the third floor corridor. And all I'm thinking is, why would he announce that? Doesn't he realize that that was basically the most challenging, that was as close as a challenge you could give to a bunch of teenagers? I'm shocked we didn't later hear that half the school attempted to find out what was behind that door. Nevertheless, we're also introduced to Professor Snape, the red herring of the book, basically. And right off the bat, Harry doesn't trust him, because he was sitting next to Professor Quirrell, and when Harry looked at him, Snape, his scar hurt. Of course, we later find out that that's not Snape's fault, but yeah. Then we get the worrying story of Neville talking about his magic, basically admitting that his family didn't think he was magic. so his great uncle threw him off a pier and he almost drowned. I'm sorry, excuse me? Then that same uncle threw him out a window. Luckily, his accidental magic finally kicked in and he bounced, and then that same uncle got him a toad. He tried to kill that boy twice, and as a reward, he gives him a toad. And this was all like in a throwaway paragraph, like, oh yeah, this happened, so funny, haha, what? We're just supposed to breeze past that? Alright. Then, we're introduced to Hermione talking to Percy, and they're just basically acting all pompous, like, worrying about school, I guess, which I'm just, fair enough, I'm not gonna knock them. I'm not gonna knock them, Then they're led by Percy, who's the prefect, to the Gryffindor house where they sleep. Only to be stopped by Peeves, who I mentioned earlier, who basically just causes mayhem, only for Percy to say, "Don't make me call the Bloody Baron," which basically sets us up and tells us the information that Peeves is scared of the Bloody Baron. We're also introduced to the Bloody Baron, and we get a kind of some foreshadowing, I guess, or maybe not really, where someone, I think might have been Harry, asks why he's called the Bloody Baron, and asks Sir Nicholas why he's called the Bloody Baron, and Nick says, "We don't know, nobody's ever asked." Then that's basically the chapter. It ends with Harry having basically this nightmare about a talking from Professor Quirrell's turban, talking Snape, Malfoy, turning into a snake and whatnot. Then we had Snape giving a high cold laugh, a flash of green and stuff. It was basically a fever dream of foreshadowing. Overall, I enjoyed this chapter for what it was. A setup chapter. This is the final setup chapter, basically. Now we can really get this. We got the exposition out of the way. We know Harry's a wizard. We know all about Hogwarts, basically. We know what houses they're in. Now we can finally kind of really get the ball moving, and I did enjoy this chapter, and it really did move, and it moved the story along. So, with that in mind, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. It was a 6 out of 10 chapter. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.